Okay, so those are the 6 steps for building blocks. We have done it, and we're going to talk now briefly about Chapter 8 in your Blended Practices book. And this chapter is all about, again, more teaming information, which you learned some from your Building Blocks book. This is about planning, implementing, and revising your instruction. So we start out with a nice story about Miss Abby and her situation. So these are the questions. This is an activity that is in your assignment tab on the far left side on your ReggieNet site. And you are going to respond to these questions in the box there that's provided for you. So some key points on this chapter include the following. Pull out your Blended Practices text and look at page 175. You have a review there of that curriculum framework. Remember, we talked about it on another lesson. And we've got the umbrella there. And what we want to think about is how several different team members are going to be working together actually to hold up that umbrella in regards to the assessment process, deciding what to teach, the scope and sequence, planning those activities and those interventions, and then monitoring the progress. And that's what this chapter is about. So what I've done here is just taken some key points. The first very important team member are the family members. And so the way the authors have described this section and the following sections are to talk about the roles and responsibilities of family members in the different, if you will, sections on that umbrella, which are, again, the assessment, the scope and sequence, activities instruction, and progress monitoring. I want to point out Lily's story regarding the Play-Doh. I think that's very helpful when you're thinking about family members' roles and responsibilities, and the example for activities and interventions, and providing support to families at home as well. I think that's very, very helpful. And then also be sure you look at that on page 182, that activity matrix. So in the left-hand column, we've got the routine or the activity, and then across the top are those skills. And the skills that this author is talking about for Lily are requesting objects and materials, taking turns, identifying shapes, and grasping utensils. And so together, the family and the teacher have filled out this table or grid to give ideas of what could be done at home to help meet her objectives, Lily's objectives. And I think that's a really awesome way to make that connection, and remembering and recognizing that our time with our students is short compared to what could happen if we're working very closely with the families, and they can provide strategies and interventions as well at home. The next section that is key, it starts on page 184, is the related services personnel. And wow, 184 and 185 are an awesome list of examples of what are called related services personnel. And these would be those folks that you'll be working with, especially if you have students in your classroom with IEPs. So I'm not going to read that to you. You review that list. Think about the programs you've worked in. Do you have access to any of these folks? Hopefully you do. And then, of course, I just did the outline again. It's the different pieces of the umbrella and how the roles and responsibilities of related service personnel. Lily's team involved quite a few different people, and Miss Abby, the teacher, has some examples here about the steps that she wanted to take with the variety of team members. So look that over as well. Also, on the bottom of page 189, they've got an example of co-teaching variations. Remember, we studied that chapter in Building Blocks where we talked about co-teaching, and here's another example from different authors. So it's nice to see some carryover points as well as some extensions on their ideas. And the last section for folks that you're going to be spending a lot of time collaborating with, very important. The paraprofessionals you'll work with, co-teachers, itinerant teachers, on page 182, again, there's the co-teaching variations, but there are the roles and responsibilities start there again in each one of these categories, and I think that is important for you to be aware of. You will not be working alone in your classroom when your classroom includes children with IFSPs or IEPs. There are, as we already know, challenges to teaming, because we already talked about that with the building blocks chapter. So kind of compare. I think they're pretty much saying the same thing regarding the main challenges that folks have when trying to collaborate. And I think Lily's story with the information about Nicole and Miss Abby is a very good example for you to look at, to get some ideas about these challenges and how they can be met. Okay. I want to now be sure we spend just a few moments talking about your observation. I hope that you've got your observation scheduled. If you don't, and you need someone to talk to about some ideas, send me an email, let me know. We can set up a time to talk face-to-face or via the phone. You really do need to be getting these appointments made. So thinking about what you should wear. So dress professionally. And also dress to be comfortable if you are going to be sitting on a little chair or possibly even sitting on the floor. What to bring. Be sure that you have printed out a couple of things. You absolutely have to have that sheet where the teacher signs that you did your observation. And you also have to, or would want to have that guidelines for your observation, several pages, set up like a table, inserted into a Word document that you can fill out while you're observing. I don't think it's a great idea to take your laptop because that's a little bit of an annoyance in a classroom. But you could make your notes on paper if you'd like. And be sure that you reviewed the projects. You know what papers are coming up. I think I released 2 of the descriptions, the information about your observations, and then the case study. And those 2 are the main ones you need to be thinking about right now. So we're going to close. Let me know if you have any questions, and it's good talking to you about education of young children as always.